welcome to Decomposition. My name is Lena Muchetti, and I am the Artistic Director of New Light Theater, and I am joined tonight by Ryan Mikles. Ryan, you want to introduce yourself? Tell us who you are and what you do here?
Hi. Yeah, sure. I'm Ryan Mikles. I'm an artist in the theater world. I make sounds, and that's what I like to do. Yeah.
And who are you with New Light Theater?
I am an intern right now, and I'm the host of our show tonight, Decomposition.
Great. And Decomposition is a new program we are launching to celebrate musical theater artists, explore their process and their inspiration. And we are so excited to share some phenomenal original music with you, but also to get to know some absolutely lovely human beings, right? So we're here for our first episode with 4 incredible music artists, Paul, Mason, Kanako, and Kylie. And you got to talk to each of them for almost an hour, right? How was that?
Yeah. I mean, some great people everybody's got so broad perspectives when they come into the music world with it. And it's so cool to hear those 4 people.
Yeah. And good energy from those 4, right?
The best. The best.
So we had these big, beautiful, fascinating conversations, and we've had to pare those down to 4 bite-sized snippets to give you just a glimpse into these fascinating folks, and you'll get to hear their amazing songs as well. And if you enjoy what you hear, we hope you'll consider tossing a little donation using the button attached to this post so we can continue to support and uplift amazing artists like these guys. And we hope you'll tune back in for episode 2, which will debut May 30th. All right, you ready to jump in?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Be my rose and lead me on, Massanutten. Be my rose and lead me on.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Decomposition. We're kicking off our first episode here with Paul Harrold. He is the frontman of a little band called Paul Harrold and the Nuclear Bandits. Hi, Paul. It's good to see you, man.
Hey, man. It's so good to be here with you, brother. Seriously.
So you submitted a song called Massanutten.
I did.
And,
I did submit that song.
Wow, man. What a piece that is. I mean,
Thank you,
in terms of... It's a full composition, you know. There's sections to this song, and we go from different feels. So, and I think that's one of the things that surprises me the most about your music is the feel and how often these grooves are changing. You know, we start off with this really nice, simple guitar, and then we go right into this just kicking rhythm. So for you, I mean, how do you view the songwriting process? Because I almost feel like you're looking at it from a groove perspective. That's what I, as a listener, am perceiving. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious how you go about attacking it.
Man, well, first of all, thank you so much for the kind words. I'm a big fan of your music too, and I think it rocks. I think you rock. So
Thanks, man.
Means a lot coming from you. Dude, I'm really obsessed with genre. It's like pathologically obsessed with genre. And so I really like taking like characteristics that I really, really love from different genres and splicing them together where they shouldn't fit, where I maybe haven't heard them before. So for example, like I really, really, really love like the family style swelling multi-voice harmony of like gospel hymns. So
Right.
It's like, okay, well, what if we put that in a rock song? You know, what if we put that in an emo song? Or, you know, I really like emo, like pop punk breakdowns, you know? So it's like, okay, well, what if we put that in a folk song? Or like I really like, you know, like hoedowns, like knee slapping hoedown. So it's like, well, what if we put that in a heavy metal song? So, yeah, I think for me, when I first started getting into this, it was like, okay, well, what are the things in music the characteristics in music that make me really, really want to dance, you know? And then how do we stick those and make some interesting musical love children with other characteristics?
That thought, obviously, I mean, it shows through your music how you are blending so many different genres. I mean, it's hard for me even to talk about you as an artist and, you know, confine you to one sound. Like,
oh, thanks, man.
I'd want to call you a folk guitarist or something of that nature, but that's not an all-encompassing Paul Harrold statement.
Oh, cool, man.
And when you mentioned the pop punk breakdowns and how you love those, the first thing that came to my head was that just awfully like full aggression, like, and I'm fucked up and I'm scared, and like that part in Mash and Nuttin'. I mean, wow, man! You don't hear the song going in that direction, but there's this lovely almost battle going on within your music of the sensitive vulnerability, and then just the outward aggression towards wanting to change the world. There's so much passion, I think, would be the best descriptor for me, is that your music is just full of passion in every sense of the word. You know, a passionate love song and a passionately anarchy-filled let's go burn down the Coliseum, you know?
I think it's interesting you say that, because I would call myself a folk singer. I love the tradition of the folk singer. I love the tradition and the lineage of folk songs. I'm really in love with that. I'm in love with that whole archetype. And I'm in love with that sound. But I also never really grew out of the phase of being 13 years old and idolizing the idea of being in a rock and roll band. I think the world grew out of that, but I never grew out of that. And so I'm like, I want to make this like bluegrassy troubadour folk music. I want it to be Americana. I want to carry on the tradition of folk singer. But I'm like, but I also need to be in a rock band. It's got to be a rock band. We got to be a rock and roll band. You know, we got to be axe slinging, face melting, gut busting, acid, like, you know, like that's
What are the what's the word? The obstacles that you run into when you're trying to blend all of these genres together? Because it sounds like a big task.
It's, I think a big obstacle is for me, not becoming parody, not becoming self-parody, because I don't do it. So I started writing folk songs when I was in high school, and I was really into traditional folk music, but at the same time I was in high school and I was also really into like Mumford and Sons and the Lumineers, and I think that there started to become this hipster shorthand for like folk song lyrics of like, on the mountain, oh wide river, oh my brother on the like that kind of shorthand. And so for a while I was in high school and I was writing songs that sounded like that, and ultimately I realized as a 17-year-old, I was like, oh, this is self-parody. Like, I don't want to, this isn't what I'm into. This is so formulaic. And so I think we made this record, me and the Nuclear Bandits, we made this record called We'll All Be Something Somewhere. And I think there's a cohesivity to those songs. I think there's a cohesivity to this style that I call mountain rock. And now when I sit down and try to write anything, I feel like I'm parodying. I feel like I'm doing a Mad Lib,
Yes.
And I don't want to do that. I'm like, is that even honest anymore? So I love genre, like I said, I love genre. I love when you can fall back on characteristics that make you happy, that make you want to dance. I love like the warmth and the comfort of like, oh, and then we resolve to this chord, and now we have this big harmony, and now we have this riff. I love those characteristics, but I think you get to a point when you're a genre fan, that when you come back to revisit it, you're like, am I not being honest anymore? Am I just parodying myself? Am I just so I don't know, does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
There's also another thing where like I feel, and this pertains to I think how my work in music intersects with my work as an actor, but I always feel like I'm writing songs as a character. And I never feel like I'm writing. So I think there are a lot better songwriters than me that can write from their personal experiences and say something really beautiful. But I don't think that I'm that interesting. I don't think that I have bringing anything that interesting to the table from in here. So it's like, well, let's sing a song about a sea captain, or let's sing a song about a pirate. So it's. I think something that's difficult is being like, how vulnerable am I being honest anymore? Like if if we're going to sit down and write a song about a farmer, I'm like, am I even writing about something that's honest to me anymore? Or I don't know.
Yeah, that's the hurdle always. You know, I can agree as an artist that one of the hardest things to get over is yourself, is to just get over yourself and realize, you know what, I'm not all these things I say I am. I'm not all these things I think I am. What am I really? And it's a terrifying thought that you could write something and put it out there, and, you know, perhaps a week later you realize that guy ain't me. But what really surprises me about your music is that you can write these stories that, you know, you claim they're not coming from any personal experience or something like that. Like a narrative sense in that way. A song about a farmer. But there's this truth that you bring to it as Paul. There's, you know, even if there is a character there's this truth in how you view the world, and your perspective shines through that. And I want to commend you on that, because it seems like you might not even be aware that you're crafting these brilliant, like, truthful stories. And that's all anybody cares about, man. That's what we got to do. We got to keep telling the truth out here. Walk me through why you wrote Massanutten.
Massanutten started with a riff, and it started as a slow country ballad, which is not what it is on the record. I consider Massanutten to be an emo song. But it started out with a riff. It started out with may I play something for you?
Oh, please, sir.
It started out...
Take it home, Paul.
I think we're in tune. So anyone who's heard the song knows it's not like this, but it started out with this riff. That riff, and that was what was in my head, and it was in my head, this finger-picked riff. And I really like the thing in folk songs and country songs where you have this finger-picked melody, and then you punctuate every verse with that finger-picked melody. It shows up in a lot of the old tunes that I wrote, you know. But Massanutten, I would go there with my family. I would go there, beautiful town in the mountains, beautiful hiking, beautiful views. It's it's the Blue Ridge Mountains down in Virginia, so it's just a beautiful place to be. And I just something about, I love Americana music. I love country music, and the names of mountain towns it's like, well, that's your pretty standard formula for coming up with a country song, isn't it? It's like, yeah, we had this riff, and we had Massanutten, and that's kind of where it started. And it was the song was a prayer. The song was an invocation of this beautiful place. And it's like, well, what do I think of this beautiful place? What is this beautiful place to me? And the song really is about that place that you had all these good times at, that you idealize. You idealize it to the point where it's this place, it becomes mythical in your mind, because you grow up and you become an adult, and you become emburdened with the I don't know if emburdened is a word, but you become aware of the burden of existence, and everything weighs on you, and you just have this, like, well, if I could just go back here, if I could just go back here, if I could just go back here, and you idealize this place, and put this place up on a pedestal so that it becomes more than what it is. So I went back to Massanutten this past summer with my family, and we had a lovely little time, but it was not this mythical place. It was not this idealized paradise. It was everything was fine, I think the song, I know the song, and that's why this song is more personal than songs about sea captains, even though I don't want to admit to this. But yeah, the song's about that place that you idealize, and it's never going to be what you thought it was. It becomes more than what it was, and ultimately is it a place? It's not a real place anymore. It's just an idea of when things were better, and you can never get that back.
Thanks for coming aboard, dude. I had an absolute blast talking to you, Paul. Everybody, please go check out We'll All Be Something Somewhere. Paul Harrold and the Nuclear Bandits. Incredible guy over here, pointing that way at him.
And thank you to New Light Theater, the kindest and most wonderful theater in the world, and to Ryan, the kindest and most wonderful man. Love you very much.
All right, now we're going to be listening to Massanutten by Paul Harrold.
Massanutten, leave your lightning on. Time is all but lost the hill that I've been fighting on. A glass of something full of grace and sin. I went fishing in the Jordan for my soul again. Oh. Seen me barren, like those trodden plains on which nothing but the effigies of strength remains. Like the heron to his treetop nest, buried north he clutches shards of heaven to his chest. And whoa, when these timid waters tremble, this I know, they bleed for home. And whoa, they will quell our crowned confessions when our strength is gone. Massanutten, be my rose and lead me on. Massanutten, be my rose and lead me on. Heaps of marble bed the ground below, having sundered from the buttresses that held them so. Near the parlor where my father's books stacked with fractions of the wisdom in his gentle looks. I will die soon, I will not remain. I will stalk the light that haunted me above this pain. For your honor, for my Pharisees who confess their faith at podiums while the good Lord pleads. Whoa, when these timid waters tremble, this I know, they bleed for home. Whoa, they will quell our crowned confessions when their strength is gone. Massanutten, be my rose and lead me on. Massanutten, be my rose and lead me on. Darling, would you grant a pardon to the shamefullest of men who do not deserve redemption, who do not deserve their skin? Will you rail against the sorrows some bleed redder than their names? Will you bind them and unwind them like the good Lord heals the lame? Massanutten, I am nothing, and I'm selfish, and I'm spent, and I'm shameful, and I'm wasted, and I'm fucked up, and I'm bent, and I'm fucked up, and I'm scared, and I'm weak and unprepared. I fulfill my own damnation when I eat and wash my hair. Massanutten, fill my lungs back up with air. Massanutten, fill my lungs back up with air. When these timid waters tremble, this I know, they leave for home. Oh, they will quell our crown confessions, and their strength is gone. Massanutten, be my rose and lead me on. Massanutten, be my rose and lead me on. I guess I'll mail myself to Mars.
Right here we've got Mason McDowell, and his submission was Mail Myself to Mars. And how about you just give a little brief introduction to yourself, Mason?
Yeah, well, I'm Mason. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a musical theater writer, kind of whatever mood I find myself in writer. And I submitted this song, Mail Myself to Mars. It's sort of a all-encompassing political frustration song, and just being fed up with the world and the lack of civil debate and the availability of civil debate with complicated issues that are made to be far too simple. And I'm so glad to be here to have a nice long conversation about all the ins and outs that I probably honestly haven't thought of yet. So
oh yeah,
a lot of times that comes up in the conversation. You're like, oh, I guess
Exactly.
that is subconsciously part of my process.
Right, you'll be describing a song, and you're all of a sudden you're like, oh, it means this. I didn't know I meant that, but that's what I meant. You know,
Yeah.
those kinds of moments are always so fun, and hopefully we can have a few of them here.
And even if I didn't mean it, I will always take credit for it. So
Now that's a writer right there. Mm-hmm. So something you mentioned on our first little brief meet and greet we had that really I was curious about was you said that you started off as a classically trained pianist. Was that your introduction to music?
Well, I mean, my introduction to music was really my parents. My parents are both musical theater writers, actually.
Oh, no way.
But they were so busy, and that my mom decided it's probably best if I don't teach. My mom's a pianist. It's best if I don't teach Mason piano, if maybe he takes from someone who's a classical teacher, so he gets all the fundamentals down. Mm-hmm. So I took classical piano for 8 years or so. I went into competition piano, and I hated it, but I got all my fundamentals down. But it was, in a technical sense, in terms of my instrument proficiency, that was my introduction to music. But music was just always in the house. Mom and Dad were always writing, mm-hmm. and so it's hard to pinpoint exactly when the introduction was, but it's just been a part of my DNA, I think.
Yeah, that's massively fascinating that you grew up in a house where music was always being written. Not many people have. I don't know anybody that actually has that situation. That's beautiful.
Thank you. I mean, I think it's very unique. I was also homeschooled, so that allowed me to spend even more time sort of in that inoculation chamber of music, where it was always around me, and dinner table conversations were, using musical language. So it just became like, I wish I was actually bilingual, but my closest thing to being truly bilingual is speaking English and speaking music theory.
Right, and that's a universal language right there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, music theory is actually pretty nerdy, and but the true sound that music theory attempts to explain, that's the universal thing, and that's the important thing. Whether or not you know music theory is kind of that's water under the bridge. If you can feel the music, that's all we need to communicate.
Right, and that's all that really matters at the end of the day is the feeling. And so one thing that I'm really curious about is I sent you an email where I kind of hinted at how blown away I was by your little piano licks, and I mean you can tell that the classical training has absolutely, it is rooted in the way you touch those keys. You move through it so nimbly, and there's these but something I was curious about was how do you write those licks? Is that a kind of process where you find building blocks, or is it more of a just see where the fingers go?
It's a combination of the two, sort of, because usually if I'm writing. If I'm starting a song, and we'll talk about Mail Myself to Mars specifically, the piano licks and the extra sort of decorations, I would call those like little, all those little fancy things that's the filigree on top. That's not the structure that makes the song solid.
Right.
It's built on a foundation, and this is specific to Mail Myself to Mars, but it was built on a foundation of a bass line, which was... and this sort of offbeat kind of bass line where you have the four on the floor is the sort of internalized feeling, but the bass very rarely lines up with it. It's... and it's that kind of offbeat relationship that allows other things to sit on top of that and to almost seem like it almost seems more complicated than it is, because that bass line is so destabilizing. We're used to the bass being like boom, 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 boom.
Right.
But to have this sort of the foundation that everything else is built on almost never lands on the downbeat. Right. So the filigree seems like it exists in this weird alternate universe because you've never been settled in home base yet, ever. So I think that's part of the reason that those licks were so fun for me to add in, is because the universe was so open, because there was no ground rules rhythmically. Everything was offbeat, so I could just play in and out across the bar lines, and the rules of the world had been established. The downbeat is less important now, so let's just play around.
Wow, Mason, you are blowing my mind over here with the way that you can so quickly communicate these ideas. It's absolutely mind-blowing to see how you think of it, how the bass line, it's never on the downbeat for you, but as a listener, I almost feel it there. It becomes the new downbeat for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's sort of the idea. And the drums really help you feel where you are, because the drums contrasting the bass line are very simple. And the bass drum is always keeping you centered where you are. Because if you had nothing to center you, then it wouldn't really be fun to listen to, because you'd spend all your time just trying to figure out what the heck was going on.
Yeah, like, where are we? How did we get here? Yeah.
It's a symbiotic relationship, because you have to have something that is constantly pulling you away from home, but also something that is reminding you where you're coming from. And there's the tension. There's something that's pulling away, going to somewhere different, and then...
Where did these types of ideas come from? These let's build off of something that's not quite ordinary. Is that always an idea in your head? Are you always trying to defy what's expected? Or what is Mason thinking when he's attempting this?
Well, you got pretty damn close. I am... I think I really got into songwriting when I heard Stevie Wonder. And Stevie Wonder is someone who, and all of his music, quarterly, he's in his own universe. He's got his own thing going on. And I admire that. I admire that so much. And it's just one of my main values going into a song. I want to create something that is shocking, but after you hear it, you realize that it was the inevitable conclusion. yes, you weren't expecting it, but now that it's resolved, there's no other way it could have gone. And that's what
Right.
Stevie Wonder's chord structures and his melodies, that's how they work. And
Right.
specifically Mail Myself to Mars, I drew a lot of inspiration sort of in general from Stevie Wonder bass lines, but everyone knows Superstition.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that is a great example of a drum beat that's just then screwed it up. Yeah. And that is just something that he lays down that riff for
Right.
so long before he ever gets to the chorus, and you never want it to end because
yeah.
there's the tension of the da 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 ba 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 da ba 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 da. It's this great combination of landing on the downbeat to get you centered in where you are, and then pulling away from it, and it's funk at its best.
What do you think the future of musical theater looks like? What does it feel like?
I think I'm excited, honestly, because I think that COVID has sort of hit a hard reset on everything, and I look at the class that I'm in, all of these new writers with bold ideas that have very unique voices, and we're going to be uniquely positioned to kind of start over again, and I hope that we can. I'm an idealistic view.
Right.
But I think that we're going to have a lot of diverse stories being told. And the world needs that right now. We need to hear the little voices. And they need to be heard loud. And I think that because everything just went to a grinding halt, a lot of the problems that were hard to address while the train was in full gear, chugging along, we're stopped, and we cannot help but to look at how problematic our industry has become.
I'm curious about your writing process. How exactly does the song come to you? Does it come to you melodically first, lyrically first, rhythmically? What are we working with here, Mason?
Every single version has happened at one point, but usually it's I'm like noodling around with something like and I'll improvise something, and then I'll hum along. And so let's say that I just made that up on the spot, but let's say I wanted to go with that. Then so I've got two chords. I got a D chord. I've got a C over a D. That's interesting to me. And how do we, the melody that I was humming was like way too high for me, so I got to figure out how to change that.
Right.
Maybe somewhere in this range. That's kind of but there's not a lot of like harmonic surprise there, so I'll have to work that out. But there's like a certain kind of soul to that.
Yeah, I'll say.
Well, thank you. And so that's sort of how it usually starts. I'm just kind of like zoning out. I'm playing through stuff, and then something will catch that really moves me, and I'll sing that over and over again. I'll go da 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 da, and that feels like okay. That wants to say something. What does that want to say? Yeah. And I don't know. What does that want to say? What is ba da 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 da? What is that? Is that loss? That doesn't feel like loss.
I was gonna say, it feels like you just lost the chance to go home. Like there's a bright. It's like you are being pulled away from this beautiful bright space, but it's kind of comforting at the same time.
Yeah. I watched the last bus pull away. Watch the last bus pull away. Okay, so there's a line, and it was derived from the feeling that the melody gave you. But then you created. You said it felt like loss, but it's heartwarming at the same time. What was it? What did you say?
It was lost, but like home at the. You lost your chance to go home.
Okay, yeah. So maybe that's that last bus back to your hometown. So we've already got a story idea. So that's how it's all built. It's like it can come from the smallest little seed, and then from there on, I don't know. We might actually write this song during the interview. I don't know.
It's sad to see you turn back to me. Well, all right, man. I say we freaking call it.
Excellent. Let's do it.
Yeah, man.
And now we're going to be listening to Mail Myself to Mars by Mason McDowell.
Have you ever been let down by clever men smiling wide? Don't you know that when a bell rings, an angel thinks someone lied? Don't you feel let down? You've yet to feel the ground. Yeah. People say to me that one day, eventually the truth will prevail. But history repeats, I say, and every word we eat leaves a trail. One truth prevailed, boy. Truth as they were wrong. Born in a nation deemed too big to fail, like setting sail on the Titanic. Look how that turned out. But how can we heal with healthcare that couldn't care less? The favor lies with those who pay the best. Rich men in black say the system's back, while old man Jack has a heart attack. I ain't no shy kind of guy, you know I won't get truth if I let things lie. Am I the only one under this yellow sun that sets his sights in the stars? I guess I'll mail myself to Mars. Was I the only one that thought something was off when those buildings fell? But every time I speak, they run, flying like a bat out of hell. Is it fear or delusion? Sometimes it's hard to tell. But ignorant bliss makes us marionettes to those who know. They're pulling all the strings while we bake all the bread that lets them rolling dough. Cause the rich man with the strings in hand, he always runs the show. Yeah. I feel like Dorothy in the land of Oz. That's because these talking heads that I've been told to blame just ain't the same as the men behind the curtain that pull the strings. They make me wonder what tomorrow brings. So rich men in black, don't give me no flack. I'm gonna pack my sack and I won't come back. I ain't no shy kind of guy, you know I won't get truth if I let things lie. There is no other way, these guys are here to stay. I guess I'm off to the stars. I'll have to mail myself to. I just had a thought that I ought not have thought, but I've got no other plans to plot. I think I found a way to make them go away, and since they're not behind bars, we'll have to mail them all to Mars.
How hard it was to walk away, if I may.
I'm here today with...
I'm Kanako Neale. I'm a drummer, songwriter, that kind of person.
Yeah, so what you submitted was a piece called Walk Away, which what really grabbed me about it was, one, the brushy drums at the beginning. I mean, who doesn't love a good pair of, like, just brush jazz drums? They just hit right. They hit the right spot. But another thing that really grabbed me was what you said in your submission was that people always ask, like, well, what is the song about?
Yeah.
And it seems to me like listening to it, it's a song about heartbreak and missing the chance on that one person.
Yep.
But no. What's the song about?
It's about a dress. Well, it's kind of like, I guess, yeah, it might be about somebody. No, it's dress. It's about a dress. Yep.
It's funny how, as like artists, we explore these ideas and we'll frame something as a concept as one thing, but really we're talking about these things we really needed to say, but we couldn't. Or there's always these different ways that we outlet our emotions. And I'm curious what led to Walk Away. What led to you wanting to write this song?
So I was at H&M, and I just bought a dress, and as I was leaving, I saw another dress, and I was like, oh, that's so cute, but I already bought this, and this is cute too. So, yeah.
That was the aha moment, the brainchild of Walk Away.
And I love love songs, so I made it into love songs.
So what was the process for writing Walk Away like? How did it start? It began at that H&M, you saw the two dresses.
Yeah.
But what was the first musical idea that came?
So I was driving to a gig, and I think I was stuck at 76, like everybody, and and I used my phone's camera, and then kind of started humming, and yeah.
Yeah, it's cool that sometimes they can start from a brilliant song can start from such a small thought, a small moment, like a very personal moment that you can then share with everybody. So how did it go from this melody idea or just this humming in the car? What was the next? Let's walk through the way it begins to take shape. How do you know that this is a song coming?
Well, so I sang to my phone, and then when I get home, I just transcribe it, I guess.
So you charted a voice memo. You took just humming in the car, and you actually just wrote that out. I mean, that's incredible, Kanako. I don't know anybody that does that.
Really?
That's awesome.
Huh.
That sounds like a very mechanical, taxing process. How do you go through it? Is it just second by second finding the note? How do you find the notes first off? Well, I'm so curious. You got to walk me through this.
Well, when I was little, I was told I have perfect pitch, so that helps. And
yeah. So it's recorded in what I assume is a live fashion. Is it everybody playing at the same time? Nope. Really?
I did.
Well, you got me with that one.
I did my part at home, like just snare, cymbal later, like individually, because I didn't have it set up yet. And
so you went by recording each drum part into like one cymbal take.
Yeah.
Wow. How long do you think that took you?
Like an hour. It's not that complicated song. So I was like, I just did that part, and then like whatever cymbal hits I wanted in there.
Right, the
Separate,
accents.
yeah. So.
Man, that chugging of the brush is infectious, man. I just want to start jumping. What was one of the first ways you found music? How did music find its way into your life?
Around 14, my friend introduced me to this Japanese rock band. I was in Japan at that time, and I just loved it. And I started going to their shows and like listen to every song that they have. And I started playing piano at 3-ish, and played until like 12. And I did flute from like 9 to 12. I guess I stopped. Wow. I stopped everything at 12, but.
Yeah, what happened at 12?
I don't know. Then I started playing drums at 15.
What was the first kind of music you began to play?
Well, when I started playing drums, it was in high school, like high school music club, and we made a band. And we just played like a few J-pop songs.
Do you remember the name of your band?
Justice.
Justice. That's the best band name ever. Who has a problem with Justice? So you start with the band in high school, and where does the music take you next?
New York.
New York.
Yeah. So I moved to New York with my mom when I was 16. And then just drums.
Did you bring drums from overseas, or did you?
I didn't have it.
Find new drums.
I didn't have a drums.
Oh, you didn't have any.
So my first mission was to find a band to play with here, and I found it like a few months later.
What was that band like? You went from a J-pop band in high school.
It was
in the United States.
It was a rock band.
It was a rock band.
They were looking for a drummer, and I was looking at the paper and called them, and I was like, can I audition? And they were like, yeah. So, but it was really tough because I couldn't speak English by then, but at that time. And I was bad at drums too, so I don't know. I mean, I just started, and it was like a year after I started, so it wasn't good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what did you start to learn from playing in this rock band?
Play with other people, and like it was so loud because it's rock band and in a tiny studio. So I learned how to like keep tempo with the guitar player by looking at his hand because I can't really tell what's going on, and I was like, oops. So yeah.
When there's that sound everywhere, that overload, it's tough sometimes to keep track of it all. That's really cool. You would look at the guitarist's hand and just match the mechanical movement.
I guess I did
instead of the audio.
Yeah, I guess I did okay.
Why did you first start to write?
It was right after I broke up with my first boyfriend. So heartbreak. But I didn't have the words to describe it yet. So it's just instrumental. And
that's beautiful. So when the words aren't there, the music is how you serve to communicate those thoughts.
I think it was easier for me to get along with people in the beginning. Because, like, I can't really talk because I don't know English, but I can talk through drums.
Yeah, and that's beautiful. I mean, that's something about music that connects all of us.
Yeah.
I think you have a beautiful life, and I love the way you communicate. And I just really appreciate you coming on here.
Thank you. Thank you for choosing my song.
And now we are going to be hearing Walk Away by Kanako.
If I met you a long time ago, I guarantee you I would have been in love with you, but it's too late, so I let you walk away from me. Do you remember when your hand touched mine? I knew it right then that we feel the same, but I told myself not to be naive and walked away from you. But what if we were wrong? What if we were meant to be? I never realized how hard it was to walk away. If I met you a long time ago, I guarantee I would have been in love with you, but it's too late, so I let you walk away from me.
Kylie Westerbeck, who submitted the song Sweet Sweet Yellow, which just gripped me immediately. It's an emotional song, and I'll let her introduce herself. So go ahead, Kylie.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kylie Westerbeck.
Well, first off, your music is just rich with emotion, man. I did myself a disservice on not listening to the whole record until this morning. And I was driving through my car and just blown away at how you can capture emotion, and it's so truthful. There's so much human vulnerability in it that is so beautiful, and you execute it so well. So to start off, I just wanted to how do you write? How does the music come to you in your world? What brings the music on?
Yeah, totally. I think, especially the music that I have out right now, it's definitely all the music that is out. I have used the process of writing that music to kind of go through an emotional experience and go through a healing process. Songwriting has always been a way to kind of close the chapter and then move on to the next level or the next door of healing, I guess. Yeah, Sweet Sweet Yellow was written after a period of grieving, and I was just really ready to accept the process of beginning. I was very much like, wow, I've wasted so much time being so sad. And although that was really necessary, I am very much declaring my entrance into the next room. I don't want to be here anymore. I want to close the book, the chapter, etc., and just like walk in. So I've been writing music like ever since I was a child. Like even like things like about, oh, here's a little song about cars or something. I write music to process things.
Right.
And when I was ready to begin again, I was in this empty room. I was about to move into this room, and I just kind of hit the voice record button on my phone and was just like, wow, how does this feel? And I'm just like, oh, bring on the sunshine. Come on. Like, bring it on. I'm ready. I'm like accepting. It's very much like I was in a place of like, just please come and like touch me on the shoulder and let's move on together kind of thing. And the process of writing the song just really came out of that place of wanting so desperately to move on that it was almost like I was like, yes, this is my declaration, and here I am declaring it, and it just kind of flowed out of me, I guess.
Yeah, the sentiment behind the song is so beautiful, and some lyrics that stuck in my head. The one that really just floored me was, "My future is colorful." My future is colorful. It's not an easy thing to tell yourself or believe all the time. And I think it's beautiful that you wrote this song that's almost empowering yourself. And, you know, we feel that, Kylie. We feel that yearning for change, that yearning for that sweet, sweet yellow. And we all want it too now. And we want it for you and for ourselves. It's such a brilliantly constructed piece. I'm curious how you view the song as somebody who wrote it to get through something. Do you turn back to this song in times of need for it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, this song was definitely written from a place of incredibly, like, I was not thinking that my future was very colorful at all. And so it was kind of like that point where I was just like, you just gotta fake it till you make it. Like, you just gotta tell yourself that you are worth this life, and then it will be worth it. Like, everything will, you know? And so it was like that. As long as you just like tell yourself that your life can be filled, it will be, you know? Yeah. And I think a lot of times I do look back on that song and I do have the same thing, like the same feeling that you had. I'm really proud of myself that I kind of forced myself out of this rut and did it with the power of music, I guess.
And to have a relic like that of that time is, I think that's something beautiful that artistry can provide you with, is these little landmarks of, hey, I was here, I was all the way over there. Do you remember that? Because I barely do. Like, when did you begin to view it in this landmark-esque, in this almost biography like storytelling? When did that begin to be? When did that take shape in your writing?
Sure. I mean, I think that I always write. I'm always the most creative when I write, when I am going through something, and that can be something like super happy too.
Right.
Like,
oh yeah.
You know, it can be both sides of the spectrum. But when I'm processing new emotions or new experiences, I usually turn to writing about it. And look, I like what you said about them existing as little relics, like, because I think a lot about how music often serves as a mini time capsule, and how every single time I like open up Sweet Sweet Yellow, I am like deposited back into that room that I wrote it in, and I am deposited back into that mindset, I guess, and except I'm in the mindset of it out of it, you know what I mean? And I'm like on the other side, and I get to perform it in a whole new light, because it's like paying tribute to my past self a bit. And so yeah, whenever I listen back, I know the exact place that I wrote it. I know the exact person. I know the people that were in the room potentially that were listening to it the first few times that I played it, and they were like, "Oh my God," And it is very much very specific, even though it's not. Like,
right.
Sweet Sweet Yellow is a message for everyone. Sweet Sweet Yellow is an anthem for healing.
The last song on the record, is it called Blue? Is that what it is? Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, after hearing the whole record and going through it, and there's a couple of bops, there's a couple of grooves as we call them, and they're moving and they're fast paced and high energy, and there's like so much going on. There's violins, there's orchestration, there's a lot going on, and then you bring it out with this incredibly like beautiful and somber is the word that comes to mind.
Yeah.
With just you and the acoustic guitar, a little bit of reverb on that baby. I mean, that is some transcendent music right there. It's an experience going through the whole thing. I feel like the transformation that you were seeking to fill out in a sonic space, I think you accomplished it a million times over.
So Bellow, the album, as a piece, I wanted to really paint the cyclic nature of grief.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess what I mean by that is, like, we're taught in like psychology and stuff that grief exists in these stages, and like you'll start and you'll be, you'll be in denial, and then you'll get really angry about it, and then you'll get depressed, and then you'll bargain and etc., and then you accept it. Well, whatever, and I'm just like, it's been nearly 6 years, and I'm like, I'm not accepting this thing in my life. Like, I can't accept this. And I think that's like a really tough question for someone. And it's like, there are days that I wake up and I'm like, yes, I accept my present life 100%. And I accept that this has happened to me. Absolutely. But then there's the next day where I'm just like, wow, I can't believe this has happened to me. Yeah. And it's like, for me at least, it never went like, it always was a giant circle. There were days that I came back to being angry about it, days that I was just really sad about it, days that I wanted to get up and go out with my friends and hang out, and I loved life, and that was like all within, the first few months of, experiencing grief firsthand. And I was like, this is confusing. I was like, this is so confusing how I feel so many different things, and yet I'm really just supposed to be only in denial right now. And then when I was experiencing grief, and I was also like in college at the same time, so I was going through college, like, and just was like meeting different people and having these like cyclic, like going back and forth from denial to acceptance or whatever. And I was like, there should be something that shows people how cyclic grief is. And my freshman year, after my mom had passed, I was hanging out with a bunch of these incredible women who had all lost a parent. And it was weird how there were so many of us in my undergrad program that were, that had experienced loss on such a personal level. And so we were all talking about it, and then the conversation kind of shifted into what our auras were and like what color we were, and that kind of thing. And we were sitting in a hot tub of all things. And my really good friend was like, Kylie, you're so blue. You're so blue, Kylie. And I was like, yeah, I really resonate with that. It was 6 months after my mom had passed, and then, flash forward 2 years later, I was hanging out with a different group of people, an entirely different group of people, and we were talking about auras too. And they were like, "Oh, Kylie, you're so yellow. You're so yellow." And I was like, it's really interesting how people perceive me in different lights, and how people perceive me as two entirely different auras or two entirely different people based on the acceptance stage that I was in and the denial stage that I was in. Growing up, my mom grew these blue hydrangeas outside of my childhood home, and it was just always something that we did together. The huge hydrangea bush, really big hydrangea fans, and I guess the acidity of the soil made them blue. So it was cool that the hydrangeas, like by chance, were blue. And then we moved out of that home, me and my mom. And then when my mom and I moved into a separate home, and she got sick, and eventually when she passed, her family, who lived in Texas, were like, we want to put yellow roses on her grave for the Yellow Rose of Texas. And I just was kind of overwhelmed with all of the synchronicities and the consistencies of like colors in my life. And then I was just like, blue to yellow, that's all this is. That's all my life is a constant transformation from blue to yellow. And so I start off the album, and we start with Golden Child and Rare Beauty, and it's a bop. Because I was very much like, I need a pop song in all of this, like, emotion. We need some pop. And I was like, you have to remember that blue is also beautiful, that there are really beautiful moments of blue, and that, just because you're sad doesn't mean that you have to be ugly. Like, It doesn't mean that your presence is stunted. Like, you have equally as much of a presence, it's just in a different color.
Oh, so how about as a closing question?
Yeah.
What advice do you have to give from your perspective? It can be about writing music, it can be about art, it can be about grief, but anything. I'd like to hear what you think you know now that you wish you'd heard a little bit ago.
I think for both art and grieving, it's really important to be your number one biggest fan and supporter. And I think I learned a little too late that, the only person that is constant in your life is yourself. And that can be a very, very scary thought if you don't like the way your music sounds, if you don't like the way your life is going, if you don't like what, the universe has given you, or the adversity that the universe is bestowing upon you. And, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I have been since I was 15, and that was a big thing. I hated that. But as soon as I just accepted that part of myself, I got healthier, And as soon as I accepted that I was capable of healing, I got healthier. And as soon as I accepted that I was worth writing music, I wrote good music, And therefore I just have to, I guess, accept that word, accept the fact that I'm worth the sound. I'm worth the life. I'm worth the body and the mind and everything. And that's a very tough conversation to have with yourself. But I think as soon as you understand that you are capable of everything anyone else is capable of, you can open up so many doors for yourself.
That's advice I can get down with right there.
Good. Oh.
All right, well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I say we wrap this episode up here. And here for our final song is Sweet, Sweet Yellow by Kylie Westerbeck.
and bring on this yellow. Bring on this me. My future is colorful and bright as can be. Laundry is hanging. Wind is blowing. I let my head down. Pouring and pouring. Sweet, 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 sweet yellow. Sweet, sweet, sweet yellow.
All right, thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that donate button down below, and tune in for the next episode, May 30th.